Right before freshman year officially kicked off, I was scrolling through the incoming class group asking if it was allowed to bring a baby to the dorms. At the time, I just thought it was a bizarre joke and scrolled past until move-in day. The second I pushed open the door to room 1306, I saw her, my newly assigned roommate, Sloane, sitting on the edge of her bed, cradling a newborn. The baby was impossibly quiet. Sloane looked up at me, a bright, effortless smile spreading across her face. She immediately stood and held the infant out toward me. "Hey, I just need to run downstairs to hand in some financial aid paperwork," she said, her tone casually urgent. "Could you just hold little Poppy for a sec? Literally just 5 minutes." My hands were already lifting by instinct, but in the next microsecond, my vision physically glitched. A dense block of semi-transparent text materialized in the air, floating right between me and the baby. "Do not take her. The baby is already dead. They killed her, and they're waiting to pin it on you. The second you take the baby, her boyfriend is going to kick the door open, start recording, and frame you for murder. If you touch her, you go to prison for the rest of your life." My blood went ice cold. I froze, my muscles locking up. Sloane was still smiling. "Harper." She pushed the baby an inch closer.
"Come on, we're roommates.
"Don't tell me you can't even do a tiny favor." I violently yanked my hands back, grabbing the handle of my suitcase. I dragged it backward until my spine hit the door frame. The smile on Sloane's face faded inch by inch. Instantly, her eyes welled up. Tears spilled over her lashes. With practiced ease, she pulled the baby back to her chest, her voice trembling with sudden, overwhelming victimhood. "I literally just have to run down to the RA's desk. I wasn't asking you to babysit for the whole day. God, you're making me feel so humiliated." My knuckles turned white on my suitcase handle. A wave of sickening dread washed over me. If I hadn't seen those floating warnings, if I had just reached out like a normal person, my life would be over. Without breaking eye contact, I slid my phone out of my denim pocket, opened the camera, and hit record. I made sure to capture my own sneakers, the threshold of the door, and the edge of the pink blanket in her arms. "Let me be completely clear," I said, my voice shaking but loud. "I have no experience with infants, and I will not touch your child. You are her legal guardian. She is your responsibility." Sloane flinched. Then, acting as if I had just slapped her in the face, she let the tears free fall. "Harper, I thought roommates were supposed to look out for each other. Why are you being so completely heartless?" I didn't take the bait. I was terrified she was wearing a wire. Worse, I was terrified she'd take a perfectly normal sentence and edit it into "heartless freshman refuses to help desperate mom." The floating text was still flashing in my periphery. "She's getting desperate. Get out of the room now. Find a hallway security camera. Look at her canvas tote bag. She has a second phone recording everything. Don't fall for it." I flicked my eyes past her. Over on the desk by the window, Sloane's canvas tote bag was propped open. Peeking out from the fabric was a black phone tripod. The camera lens was dead centered on me. The skin on the back of my neck crawled. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment favor. It was a trap. I slowly backed out of the room, positioning my body squarely in the hallway right under the ceiling security dome. "If you need to hand in paperwork, you can carry her down with you," I said evenly, "or call the baby's father or family or the resident director." Sloane's voice spiked, shrill and frantic. She literally just fell asleep. "It's a madhouse out there. How am I supposed to drag her through that? Then call the dorm staff to come up here? You're standing right here. Why can't you just be a decent human being?" She started walking toward me. The pink swaddle was getting closer. I instantly raised my phone, pointing the lens directly at her. "Do not step toward me. I do not consent to holding that baby." Sloane stopped dead in her tracks. Then she pivoted toward the open hallway and screamed at the top of her lungs. "If you think you're better than me, just say it. Stop cursing my baby." It was moving day. The doors were already packed with parents hauling mini fridges and stressed out freshmen. At her scream, the entire floor came to a halt. Heads popped out of doorways. Sloane sobbed, burying her face into the blanket. I just asked her to hold my daughter for 2 seconds. "There's something wrong with my baby," and shoving her phone in my face. The energy in the hallway shifted instantly. The murmurs started. A middle-aged mom frowned at me. "Honey, helping your roommate hold a baby isn't going to kill you, is it?" My chest felt tight enough to snap a rib, but I forced the words out on a loop. "I have not to touch the child. The baby's physical condition does not look right. I highly suggest someone call an ambulance immediately." Sloane shrieked as if I had stabbed her. "Are you wishing death on my daughter? Why are you so terrified of letting a medic see her?" I demanded, my voice cutting through the whispers. What kind of mother fights medical help?" Sloane stammered, cornered. Sarah Miller, the director of resident life, came power walking down the hall. Seeing the crowd, her face paled. She looked more panicked than Sloane. "Everyone clear the hallway. Put your phones away. This is a residence hall, not a circus." The crowd shuffled back, but nobody actually left. Sarah saw the phone in my hand and immediately pointed. "Harper, put the camera down now." I didn't lower it. "Sarah, the baby is completely unresponsive. I have already advised the mother to call 911. Sarah scowled. "What do you mean, unresponsive? Are you a pediatrician?" "Sloane," wailed Sarah. "I literally just wanted to run down to your office. Little Poppy was sleeping perfectly fine. And Harper just started attacking me and texting the group chat." The group chat. I hadn't even thought to leave a digital paper trail yet. Right in front of the res life director, I pulled up the freshman group, me with one hand, and typed, "Gent, infant in room 11306 appears totally unresponsive. This is Harper Davis. I have not touched the child. Dorm staff and admin are present. I am advising 911. Send." The chat instantly exploded. "Wait, what? Who brought a baby, Harper? Don't joke about that." Sarah's face flushed with bureaucratic rage. "Do you have any idea what kind of liability you're creating right now?" I stared her down. "If the baby is fine, the EMTs leave. If the baby is dying, you delaying them is the liability." Sarah lowered her voice to a furious whisper. "Sloane is a special admissions case. The dean of students is already trying to accommodate her. You need to show some grace. Grace doesn't mean taking custody of an unresponsive infant." "Watch your tone," she snapped. She turned to Sloane, her voice dipping into that sickly sweet customer service register. "Sloane, honey, don't cry. Just let me take a quick look at her." Sloane violently backed away. "No, Poppy hates strangers. She'll have a meltdown if you wake her up." But the baby wasn't crying. The moment I walked into the middle of this screaming match, the baby hadn't made a single sound. Not a twitch, not a sleepy sigh, nothing. Brenda, the desk attendant, realized it too. She tugged at Sarah's sleeve. Sarah, call 911. The baby's too quiet. Sarah hesitated. She looked at the dozens of cell phones recording in the hallway, then glared at me. Let me call campus health first. Do not call the real cops. The optics of police cruisers outside on move-in day will be a nightmare for the university. The floating text spiked in my vision. She cares about PR, not the baby. Do not let them handle this internally. I bypassed campus security completely and dialed 911. Sarah lunged for my arm. Harper, the dispatcher picked up. I slammed it on speaker. 911. What is your emergency? Hi, I'm at Bridgewater University, West Campus Hall, room 1306. There is a 2-month-old infant here who appears completely unresponsive. The mother is on scene and physically refusing to let anyone check the child's vitals. I am the roommate. I have not touched the child. The dispatcher immediately asked if the baby was breathing. I looked at Sloane. The dispatcher needs to know if your baby has a pulse. Show them. Sloane clutched the swaddle so hard her knuckles bruised, her voice cracking into a hysterical pitch. Why should I? I spent all night getting her to sleep. Who's gonna take the blame if you wake her up? Dispatcher announced paramedics were already rolling and told me to stay on the line. The floating text burned brightly. Call the police. If you don't involve the cops now, they'll say you stood by and let the baby die. Call the cops. Speakerphone. I didn't hang up. 911. Using my other thumb, I dialed the local precinct. Sarah looked like she was going to throw up. Harper, paramedics are coming. There is absolutely no reason to bring armed police into a freshman dorm on move-in day. There's an infant in potential mortal danger and a guardian refusing medical intervention, I said coldly. The police are necessary. Suddenly, Sloane lunged at me. It was like her legs just gave out. She pitched forward, essentially throwing her entire body and the baby directly into my chest. In that split second, the blood in my veins turned to ice. I practically launched myself backward, slamming hard against the cinderblock wall of the hallway. My suitcase tipped over and crashed to the floor. Sloane hit the ground. The pink blanket slipped open. A tiny, fragile arm dropped out. The skin was a waxy, bluish gray. The tiny fingers were curled tight. Not a single twitch of movement. The entire hallway went dead silent. Even Sarah froze, her jaw dropping. I raised my phone higher, making sure the camera captured the distance between me and Sloane on the floor. You just threw yourself at me, I said, my voice vibrating with adrenaline. I did not touch you, and I did not touch that child. Sloane sat on the linoleum, her shoulders shaking with violent sobs. Why did you dodge me, Harper? What did you know? Why did you dodge? At her words, the crowd's suspicious stares whipped right back to me. I gripped my phone. All I know is that your baby needs a doctor. The sirens arrived faster than I expected. As the paramedics rushed up the stairwell with their jump bags, a guy in a black t-shirt shoved his way through the crowd. He had a temporary visitor pass on his neck and a phone gripped in his hand. The camera lens was pointed straight at my face. Which one of you is Harper? His voice was a violent boom that rattled the hallway. Are you the bitch bullying my girlfriend? The second Sloane saw him, her crying shifted into an ugly, theatrical wail. Trent, they're all saying there's something wrong with Poppy. I'm so scared. Trent charged at me, raising a hand to shove me. Who the fuck do you think you are? If something happens to my daughter, I will end you. A young patrol cop stepped in, catching Trent by the chest and shoving him back. Back up. Now. Trent kept filming. Everyone look at her. Look at this. First day freshman, her roommate brings the baby to school and instead of helping, she calls the cops to terrorize her. I stood next to Brenda, my palms sweating, so hard my phone was slipping. Keep recording, I said. My camera has been rolling since the second I walked in. Trent's hand jerked slightly. A flicker of real panic crossed his eyes, but he recovered quickly with a sneer. You think having a video makes you look less like a sociopath? The head paramedic dropped to one knee next to Sloane. Ma'am, hand me the infant. We need to check her vitals. Phone shrank back into the lockers. No, she's sleeping. Leave her alone. The medic's voice lost its bedside manner. If the infant has been unresponsive this long, I need to check her airway immediately. She's just tired, Sloane sobbed, clutching the blanket like a shield. Detective Russo, an older, worn-out-looking cop who would later take my statement, stepped forward. His voice was gravelly and absolute. Ma'am, hand the baby over. Trent jumped in front of Sloane. Do you have a warrant? You can't touch my kid. Russo didn't even blink. In a medical emergency involving a minor, I don't need your permission. Move. Brenda leaned in and whispered in my ear. Harper, step back a little more. Don't let either of them brush against you. I nodded, sliding over by the fire extinguisher. The hallway security camera had a perfect angle on me here, and I had a perfect angle on them. The barrage of text in my vision was flashing furiously. Stay back. Trent is waiting for you to intervene. The canvas bag, the old phone. Do not let them touch the bag. Protect yourself before you play hero. I stared through the open doorway at Sloane's desk. Canvas tote. The tripod had been knocked slightly askew, but the black phone was still nestled inside. I turned to Detective Russo. Officer, inside the room. In the canvas tote bag, on the desk, there is a hidden recording device. Please do not let anyone remove it from the scene. Trent's face drained of color. What the hell are you talking about? He instinctively lunged toward the dorm room. The young patrol cop threw his arm across the doorway. Crime scene is locked down. Nobody touches anything. Sarah finally found her voice. Harper, stop making wild accusations against your peers. I looked at her. The police will figure out if it's an accusation or a fact. Sloane, sobbing, abruptly hitched. She gripped the baby tighter. The paramedic was done asking. Give me the child now. If you block me again, you are interfering with life-saving care. Russo nodded to his partner, who gently but firmly pried Sloane's arms away. The paramedic reached for the pink blanket. The very second his fingers grazed the baby's neck, Sloane let out a blood-curdling scream. Don't touch my daughter. She ripped her head up, her eyes bloodshot, and locked her gaze onto me. Harper, what did you do to her? What did you do to my baby before you ran out? Every single cell phone in the hallway pivoted to me. The paramedic's fingers pressed against little Poppy's neck. 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Those 3 seconds felt like an entire winter. Then the medic looked up, his face devoid of emotion. No spontaneous breathing, no carotid pulse. Initiating CPR. The hallway exploded into motion. The paramedic ripped open his jump bag and laid little Poppy flat on the linoleum. For the first time, everyone got a clear look at her. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. The baby's skin wasn't just pale. It was gray. Her lips had already started turning dark. The medic began chest compressions with practiced precision while another EMT fitted an oxygen mask over her tiny face. How long has she been like this? The first medic barked. Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. Except Sloane and Trent. And judging by the terror flooding both of their faces, they knew exactly how long. The floating text flashed again. The baby has been dead for over 6 hours. CPR will not revive her. They know this. Watch what happens next. A cold shiver raced down my spine. Detective Russo's eyes narrowed. 6 hours, he muttered. The lead medic looked up sharply. I didn't say 6 hours. Russo pointed at the infant. I've worked enough death scenes to know what I'm looking at. The hallway fell silent. Death scene. Not medical emergency. Death scene. The words landed like a bomb. Sloane screamed. No. No, she's alive. You're lying. She tried to lunge forward. 2 officers caught her immediately. The medic continued CPR for another minute before finally stopping. Nobody needed him to say it. Everyone already knew. Still, protocol demanded the words. He checked one last time. Then slowly looked up. Time of death confirmed. The entire floor seemed to stop breathing. Even Sarah looked like she might faint. A freshman dropped her phone. Somebody's mother began crying. And Sloane didn't react like a grieving mother. Not at first. For half a second, she just sat there, frozen, like an actress who had forgotten her lines. Then she suddenly collapsed into hysterics. My baby. The performance was almost convincing. Almost. Until Detective Russo crouched beside her. When was the last time you saw her alive? Sloane froze again. Just for an instant. Then she stammered. This morning. Russo nodded. What time? 8. What did she eat? Sloane blinked. Formula. What brand? Silence. The detective's expression hardened. What pediatrician does she see? Silence. What hospital was she born in? More silence. The crowd began whispering. Sloane's answers weren't just bad. They were non-existent. Meanwhile, Trent looked seconds away from vomiting. A female officer approached Russo. Sir. She held up a phone. The black phone from the canvas tote. Trent immediately surged forward. That's private property. The officer ignored him. The device was actively recording. Russo took it. What was it recording? The officer swallowed. Harper. Every eye turned toward me. The recording started 23 minutes before Harper entered the room. A sick feeling settled in my stomach. They really had planned this. Every second. Every angle. Everything. Russo's jaw tightened. Play it. The officer tapped the screen. The hallway filled with audio. At first it was just room noise. Then Trent's voice. Clear as day. She'll take the baby. Sloane laughed. What if she doesn't? Everybody takes a baby when you hand it to them. My stomach dropped. The hallway went dead silent. The recording continued. Sloane sounded annoyed. She's already cold. Trent replied immediately. Then keep her wrapped up. Someone in the crowd gasped. A mother covered her mouth. The audio kept playing. If Harper takes her for even 10 seconds, we're good. What if the cops ask questions? They won't. Then came the sentence that made my blood freeze. If we do this right, she's the one who killed Poppy. Silence. Absolute silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Nobody spoke. Then Sarah whispered. Oh my God. The recording wasn't done. Trent laughed. Actually laughed. Between the lawsuit and the media attention, we'll be set for life. The phone slipped from Sloane's hands. It clattered across the floor. The performance was over. Completely over. 2 officers grabbed Trent before he could run. A third cuffed Sloane. The entire hallway erupted. People were shouting, crying, swearing. One father yelled, You used your own kid? Another screamed, What kind of monsters are you? Sloane looked around wildly, desperate, cornered. Then her eyes landed on me. The hatred that was unlike anything I'd ever seen. This is your fault. I stared at her. My fault? Her dead child. Her murder plot. Her recording equipment. Her lies. And somehow it was my fault. Russo actually laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. No, he said. This is the consequence of your fault. Then he read them both their rights. As officers escorted Sloane away, she twisted around one final time. And screamed. If she'd just held her. The entire hallway fell silent again. Because she had said it. Out loud. Not if she'd heard her. Not if she'd dropped her. Not if she'd done something. If she'd just held her. The confession hung in the air. Detective Russo smiled grimly. Thank you. Sloane's face went white. She realized what she'd done. Too late. The elevator doors closed behind her. And just like that, she was gone. Trent followed seconds later. Handcuffed. Defeated. Destroyed. The hallway remained eerily quiet. Everyone slowly turned toward me. The girl who should have been arrested. The girl who should have been blamed. The girl who should have spent the rest of her life in prison. Instead, I was standing exactly where I'd been standing from the start. Untouched. A notification flashed across my vision. The floating text returned one final time. Fate successfully altered. Wrongful conviction avoided. Survival probability. 100%. Then a second line appeared. One that made my heart stop. Warning. This was not the only trap prepared for room 1306. 3 more remain. The warning disappeared. I barely had time to process it before Detective Russo approached me. Harper, you're coming with us. My stomach dropped. What? Not as a suspect. I need your statement somewhere private. Sarah immediately stepped forward. I'll handle the student. Russo looked at her. No. One word. Sarah stopped. Russo pointed toward the security camera above us. That camera recorded the entire incident. The hallway footage, the audio from the phones, and the recording inside the room are all evidence now. Sarah's expression tightened. Detective, this is a university residence hall. And that dead baby is a homicide investigation. Nobody argued after that. I followed Russo downstairs. Halfway there, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You survived the first one. Then another. Don't celebrate yet. I stopped walking. Russo glanced back. Problem. I showed him the screen. His expression changed immediately. Give me the phone. I handed it over. He stared at the messages. Did Sloan ever have your number?
No.
Trent.
No.
Anyone else? I shook my head. Russo handed the phone to his partner. Trace it. Then he looked at me. Don't respond. I wasn't planning to. We reached the security office. The university's security director was already waiting. Sarah was there too. She had apparently decided she needed to be present. Russo noticed. You can leave. Sarah folded her arms. I'm resident life director. This occurred in my building. And now it's a police investigation. Her smile disappeared. I need to protect the university. Russo looked directly at her. That's exactly what concerns me. He placed the black phone on the table. Why did your staff member hesitate to call 911? Sarah's mouth opened. No answer came. Russo continued. Why did you tell the student not to call police? I was trying to avoid unnecessary panic. There was an unresponsive infant. I didn't know she was dead. You knew enough to delay emergency services. Sarah went pale. I watched her carefully. The floating text appeared again. Ask about room 1300 SXS previous occupants. I frowned. Detective. He turned toward me. The warning system. I stopped myself. I couldn't explain what I was seeing. Instead, I said, can you check whether anyone lived in 1306 before Sloan? The security director looked uncomfortable. I'd have to check the housing database. Check it. He typed for several seconds, then stopped. His face changed. What? He swallowed. Room 1306 was vacant last semester. Before that? But her roommate had been listed as Sloan Mercer. I stared at the screen. Sloan lived here before? According to the records. Russo's eyes narrowed. How long? 1 semester. I felt the pieces click together. This wasn't Sloan's first trap. She knew the room. She knew the cameras. She knew the administration. She knew exactly how much Sarah would protect her. And now I understood why I had been assigned there. I wasn't randomly matched with Sloan. I had been selected. Russo seemed to reach the same conclusion. Get me every housing record connected to Sloan Mercer. The security director nodded. Sarah suddenly stood. You can't just access student records. Russo looked at her. I can when they're potentially connected to a homicide. Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, then immediately declined the call. Russo noticed. Who was that? No one. Her phone rang again. This time the caller ID appeared. Dean Whitmore. Russo held out his hand. Answer it. Sarah hesitated. Speaker. She answered. Dean. A man's furious voice came through. Why are police in my residence hall? Russo replied. Because an infant was murdered. Silence. Then the dean said. Detective, we can discuss this privately. Russo's eyes sharpened. Why? Another pause. Because this involves a student with special circumstances. Which student? Silence. I already knew. Russo ended the call. Then he looked at Sarah. Nobody leaves campus. Sarah's face collapsed. At that exact moment my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a message. It was a photograph. Room 1306. Taken from inside the room. The timestamp was from 3 minutes ago. Underneath, it was one sentence. You were supposed to die there too. I showed Russo. His face hardened. Security. The security director jumped up. Yes. Lock down every entrance. Then the lights went out. The entire building plunged into darkness. Someone screamed downstairs. My phone screen illuminated the room. And on it another message appeared. Trap 2 starts now. The emergency lights flickered on. Russo immediately drew his weapon. Nobody moves. A crash came from a hallway. Then another. The security director checked the monitors. Someone's in room 1306. I looked at Russo. That's impossible. Police sealed it. Apparently not. We ran upstairs. The door to 1306 was wide open. The canvas tote was gone. So was the black phone. But something else had been left behind. A second newborn blanket. And beneath it, a bloody kitchen knife. Sarah stopped breathing. Russo stared at it. Nobody touched that. Then his radio crackled. Detective, we've got a problem downstairs. What? Trent escaped custody. My heart sank. How? We don't know. Then another voice came through the radio. Correction. He didn't escape. Everyone froze. The officer continued. Someone opened his transport door from the outside. Russo swore. Lock the building down. Too late. The fire alarm erupted. Students poured into the stairwell. In the confusion, someone grabbed my wrist. I screamed and swung my elbow. The attacker stumbled back. It was a male student I'd never seen before. He immediately ran. Russo chased him. I followed for 3 steps before the floating text appeared. Don't chase him. He's bait. I stopped. A second later, Russo's radio crackled. Detective, get back to the security office. We ran downstairs. The security director was staring at the monitors. Every camera feed had been replaced with the same image. A photograph of me standing beside Poppy. Except I had never been photographed beside her. The image had been edited. Underneath it were the words. Harper Davis killed the baby. My blood ran cold. Someone is uploading this right now, the security director said. Russo grabbed the keyboard. Can you stop it? No. My phone began vibrating. Then everyone else's phone started going off. The photo was spreading through the freshman group chat. Hundreds of messages appeared. Oh my god. Is that her? She killed the baby? Call the police. I grabbed my phone. Don't delete anything. Russo nodded. Exactly. Then a new message appeared from an unknown number. Check your suitcase. I looked toward the hallway. My suitcase was still upstairs. Russo saw my expression. What? I showed him. We rushed back up. My suitcase was open. Inside was a blood-stained baby blanket. And beneath it, a small plastic bag containing the same type of syringe used by medical professionals. My name was written across the evidence bag. Harper Davis. Russo stared at it, then smiled. Not because it was funny, because the person who planted it had made one mistake. Nobody here has touched the suitcase. He pointed at the security camera. Except whoever did this. The security director checked the footage. His face went white. Detective? What? The camera shows Harper's suitcase being opened. By whom? He turned the monitor around. The person on screen was Sarah Miller, the resident life director. She was wearing gloves and carrying the canvas tote. Russo stared at the screen. Sarah was gone. Her office was empty. Her car was already missing from the parking lot. Then my phone buzzed one last time. Trap 3. The person protecting them is running. Russo grabbed his jacket. Now we know where we're going. Where? He looked at me. Dean Whitmore's house. The floating text appeared. Correct. Then another line. But you're already too late. A distant siren screamed. And somewhere across campus, a gunshot cracked through the night. Russo sprinted toward the dean's house with 3 officers behind him. I stayed in the police car. At least, that was the plan. Then the floating text appeared. Dean Whitmore is not the target. Sarah is. I grabbed Russo's arm before he entered the house. Don't go in. He stopped. What? Check the garage. He stared at me for half a second before signaling 2 officers. They circled around. The garage door was open. Inside sat Sarah's car. The driver's door was wide open. Her purse was on the seat, but Sarah was gone. Then Russo noticed the basement window. Fresh scratches covered the frame. Someone was dragged inside. We rushed through the back door. The basement lights were on. Sarah was tied to a chair. Dean Whitmore was unconscious on the floor, and Trent stood behind them holding a gun. Drop it, Russo shouted. Trent laughed. You people still don't understand. He pointed at me. She was never supposed to survive. I raised my phone. Then why did you leave all those recordings? His smile vanished. Russo stepped closer. Put the gun down. Trent shook his head. Sloane promised everything would disappear. I stared at him. Sloane is going to prison. His eyes twitched. She promised me immunity. She lied. That broke him. He screamed and raised the gun. Russo fired. The weapon flew from Trent's hand. Officers tackled him. I ran to Sarah. She was shaking violently. Where's Sloane? Sarah looked at me. Her lips trembled. Hospital. What? She was never pregnant. I froze. Sarah continued. Poppy wasn't her biological daughter. Russo turned sharply. Whose baby was she? Sarah looked at the floor. Elise Warren's. The room went silent. 2 years ago, Elise had died in room 1306. And somehow, her baby had survived. Sloane had taken her, raised her as her own. Then, when the baby became sick, they created the entire freshman year trap to blame her death on someone else. Me. Russo immediately ordered officers to the hospital. But the floating text appeared again. Don't worry about Sloane. The hospital is already surrounded. I exhaled. For the first time all night I felt safe. Then the final message appeared. You survived room 1306. But Elise's story isn't finished. I stared at it. Who is Elise? Russo looked at me. What? I pointed toward the basement wall. Behind a cabinet was a photograph. Elise Warren, standing beside Sloane, and holding a newborn. On the back of the photograph, someone had written, Poppy was never the victim. She was the witness. My blood ran cold. Russo took the photograph. Then his phone rang. He answered. His expression changed. Detective Russo. A pause. Yes. His eyes moved toward me. The hospital says Sloane is awake. I frowned. What's wrong? Russo slowly lowered the phone. Sloane says she knows who killed Elise. The floating text appeared one final time. And that person is coming for you. Russo drove me straight to the hospital. Sloane was already surrounded by detectives. She looked terrible, but the moment she saw me, she smiled. I told them everything. Russo pulled a chair over. Start with Elise. Sloane's smile disappeared. Elise didn't kill herself. Everyone went quiet. Sarah helped cover it up, Sloane said. Dean Whitmore paid her. Elise discovered they were stealing scholarship money from students. She threatened to expose them. And Poppy. Sloane looked down. Elise had already given birth. She knew they were coming after her, so she begged me to protect Poppy. I stared at her. You protected her by using her in a murder plot? Sloane's eyes filled with tears. I became desperate. Desperate people don't plant evidence in someone's suitcase. She had no answer. Russo leaned forward. Who killed Elise? Sloane whispered the name. Dean Whitmore. The hospital room erupted. Officers immediately left to arrest him. But there was one problem. Dean was already in custody. Russo's phone rang. He answered. Then his expression changed. He's dead. I stared at him. What? Dean Whitmore died in the ambulance. Everyone froze. Sloane began laughing. Then she stopped. Because someone had written a message on the hospital window. One liar left. Every detective turned toward Sloane. Her face strained. I didn't write that. Russo walked toward the glass. Then he noticed the handwriting. His expression hardened. It isn't Sloane's. I looked at the message. The floating text appeared. The person who killed Elise is still alive. A hospital orderly suddenly ran past the doorway. Russo shouted. Stop. The man sprinted down the corridor. Officers chased him. I followed. He reached the emergency exit and pulled the door open. Russo tackled him before he could escape. The man's ID badge flew across the floor. Dr. Malcolm Vane. I stared at him. Who is he? Russo checked his records. Then his face went pale. He was Elise's doctor. The truth finally came together. Vane had helped Dean silence Elise. He had also helped Sloane hide Poppy's condition. And when Sloane realized she couldn't control the situation anymore, Vane decided to eliminate every loose end, including me. The police arrested him. Sarah, Trent, and Sloane were charged with their respective crimes. Sloane eventually received a lengthy sentence. Trent confessed to the entire scheme. Sarah lost everything. And Poppy? The autopsy revealed that she had been dead before I ever entered room 1306, exactly as the warning had predicted. Months later, I returned to campus. Room 1306 had been sealed permanently. A memorial for Elise stood outside the building. I placed flowers beside it. Then my phone flickered. The floating text appeared one last time. Timeline stabilized. I smiled. Good. The message changed. Congratulations, Harper Davis. You survived your first freshman year crisis. I stared at the screen. First, the text disappeared. A new notification appeared. Freshman orientation begins tomorrow. I sighed. You're kidding. The screen flashed. New warning detected. Your professor is planning your murder. I stared at it, then laughed. Fine. I picked up my backpack. Let's see what you've got. And this time I was ready.